I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
All right. Yeah, we're good. Awesome. Okay. All
I'm
right.
ready. I'm ready
Very
when you
good.
are.
Ready when you are. Awesome. Love it. All right, guys. Hey, we are on another Drip Jobs live stream. So welcome to our partner spotlight this week. Yeah, hope everybody's doing great. Who's listening, who's watching, and welcome. We got Micha McLain, founder of Search Click Grow, with us today. Known him for a while. Great guy. Couldn't get better. Couldn't get better. So, Mike, I
Thanks for
wanted
having
to,
me, brother.
yeah, dude. Of course. I was just gonna say hi to everybody and
Hello.
do a little
Hello,
intro
YouTube.
if you
And
want.
yeah, a little interwebs. Yeah, my name is Micha McLain, the founder of Search Click Grow. Our focus is on paint contractors in the US, and we help a couple other contractor types for some of our clients that are painters that have other companies, but our focus is on paint contractors.
Yeah, love it. Awesome. So, for the people that don't know Micah very well, a lot of you guys do already, of course.
Mhm.
Very very well known legend in the space. At what he does, extremely smart. That kind of thing. But Micah, give us a little bit of your story, man. A little bit of your journey. Of the stuff
Mhm.
that people might not know. I know a little bit, right? A little bit,
Mhm.
but kind of how did Search Click Grow like come to be?
Yeah. Um, it's kind of an interesting journey. So, I'm in my mid 40s now, so I've done quite a few random weird things.
Yeah.
Uh, kind of, I guess starting from when I was a kid, like I was a musician, from like the
Okay.
age of 4, and I had aspirations to be like a performing musician and all that stuff. And when I was in middle school, parents got divorced. My dad started a flooring company. My mom started a painting
Mm.
company. And so
Oh,
that was
okay.
my first exposure. So I was like 10.
Yeah.
And my first summer at 10, I was out there like scraping paint. This was way before the lead rules, but I'm out
Yeah.
there like scraping paint and refilling buckets and
Mm.
so like I also grew up, it was way out in the country. So like I grew up
Yeah.
really, really out in the country, man. I mean, I was also baling hay at the same time. So like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was used to manual labor at a very young age. I was mowing grass at 8. So a little different like my kids' generation, like the kids' generation now, it's like a little more coddled, but like at least back in the 80s, we kind of got out and grinded like pretty early.
Yeah.
So I was painting on weekends and stuff, probably 12, the first couple years assistant stuff. By
Mhm.
high school, like 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, like all of that, high school and first couple years of college, I was painting full time through all summers and every major break, every holiday and spring break. I
Mm.
wasn't taking spring break, I was working
Yeah.
and working weekends and sometimes nights and evenings. So it's kind of like part time, but like when I was doing it was full time. So I'd
Yep.
have like weeks of full time, summers of full time, and then after I got out of high school, I was basically full time painting Monday to Friday, and then going to school evenings and weekends, going for a music degree, right?
Mhm.
And um, as many other people's stories have, there was just a period late high school and that college where there was just a lot of substance abuse, a lot of drugs and alcohol. Like I had some, abuse in the household when I was a kid, and probably just mirrored some of those habits, not the abuseful habits, but like the substance habits, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so like I got to this point where a close friend died from like substances, and I was like, and if I keep on this lane,
Yeah.
that's gonna happen to me, right? And so like I just woke up one day, and I didn't tell a fucking soul, dude. I just woke up and went to MEPS, which is like where you go in a hallway and it's like Navy, Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, like, and I sat down and I just sat down for like an hour for every branch of the service, and I was like, I'm going on, one of you is gonna take me. I'm gonna go on the first offer that can get me out in like 2 weeks. That was what I wanted. I wanted to leave in 2 weeks
Yeah.
or less, and wanted whatever kind of offer. I didn't know what I wanted to do, man. I just wanted to leave,
Yeah.
I think at the time for me, it was like I knew at the time I had a fairly weak backbone, if you will, right?
Mhm.
I had values, but I couldn't, like, they were in my head and I couldn't stand for them. Like value, like I've learned later in life, like the notion of values and standing up for it when at the time, like when it gets hard, that's what your actual values are, right? So I
Right.
had the notion of good values, but I had no discipline,
Mhm.
hence the substance abuse, right? But
Right.
I knew that if I stayed around those friends, I would just continue to succumb to the peer pressure, and it was like all of my friends. You know what I mean? Like it was like I couldn't stay in that city and leave that friend group and leave that. So for my personal life, I knew I just needed to leave and make new friends.
Mhm.
I was like, the fastest way I can do that is I withdrew from college. I had a full scholarship too, by the way. So like it wasn't like I was working for money, but I wasn't working for school. I had earned
Yeah.
a full ride, like everything was paid for, right?
Dang.
So
Yeah.
I did 2 years of a music degree and just stopped. I was like, I'm done.
Mhm.
And and it wasn't because I didn't like music. I just needed to freaking leave. So I did that. Air Force happened to be the one that could get me out in 2 weeks. Everyone else was like month, 2, 3 months, no matter what career. Like no, just no happenstance, probably just the exact timing.
Mhm.
So I ended up joining the Air Force. Didn't really care which branches. Again, I just wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Air Force gave me an offer. Took the first job. Again, I kind of only wanted to do one enlistment. I just wanted to kind of reinvent myself. And so I
Mhm.
kind of didn't care what I did. I just wanted to go. And I ended up going to the Air Force and becoming an aircraft mechanic.
Mhm.
And the technical role is called crew chief, which is kind of like a mechanic slash superintendent on a house. Is kind of a good way, like a new construction build. Like you're
Mhm.
balancing other like specialist contractors and stuff. It's kind of the for tradespeople, it's probably the easiest way. So like it was a generalist mechanic, but
Mhm.
I part of my role was like budgeting and scheduling and coordination of specialist shops and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So like sort of like I mean race cars have that too. You get the crew chief,
Yeah.
you got the tire guys, the engine guy, you know what I mean? So it's a crew
Yeah.
chief, right?
Yeah.
That was my job, and I was assigned to a plane, and that was my whole thing. Now, this is circa 2020 when I joined and did this. And so my schooling for all this was right at 12 to 13 months. So after
Mhm.
basic training and then my tech school and all that stuff, and ended up with an aeronautical, like a 2 year aeronautical degree. Not that I've ever used it since, but you get a little college credit for that. So I got some aeronautical engineering degree that I've never touched since. And then I get to my first duty station, and a couple months later, 9/11 happened. And so, um, by happenstance, I got assigned to a special operations command. That doesn't mean I was one of those special forces badasses. I just was in the command, the unit where
Yeah.
those
The
people
unit. Yeah.
exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like special operations is like the whole thing, and the special forces are the badass dudes that go in and like do the crazy shit you see in movies, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was in special operations, not special. I was not a special forces operator.
Yeah.
But my plane's job was to protect those guys. So SEAL
Mhm.
teams and Delta Force and snipers and small units, right? So it's kind of neat. Like when we're over there, like obviously it was not on the ground or anything, but like our job was to protect some pretty cool, pretty awesome missions, right? Some of these
Yeah.
things have turned into movies since, and at the time it was super classified. I had to have a security clearance even to have my job, because we're in the special operations because of the nature of the plane that I worked on and stuff like that. So pretty cool. So now how this gets into marketing and the rest of the career is that first deployment, right? The reason I'm telling you this is the first
Mhm.
deployment. So when I got to my duty station and the 9/11 happened, like I mean I'm like 20, you know what I mean? Like I did a couple years of college and I'm 20 years old. I'm young as hell. But
Mhm.
most of my superiors, like my bosses, they were like late 20s, 30s to early 40s, right?
Mhm.
Like my age now. And most of them had been through Desert Storm, which was just a few years prior, like 97, 98, or whatever it was, right? And so when you get deployed in the military, whether it's your first time or your 50th time, you get like lists, like you get orders, right? It's piece of paper
Mhm.
says this is where you're going, this is when you're going. Sometimes you have a return date, sometimes you don't.
Mhm.
And they'll give you like things that you have to do, like med checklist, packing checklist, go over here and get a gas mask. Like, you know what I mean? You got a
Yeah.
checklist of things to do. And
Mhm.
so like I had to go get like what seemed like 5,000 shots. Super fun.
Mhm.
A bag and gas mask and chem suit and all that kind of fun stuff. And anyone that's deployed knows all that stuff, and atropine and all these kind of fun things, and some last minute first aid and trauma training and some training things I had to check off my box. One
Mhm.
of the things is like packing gear, what you're allowed to bring and not allowed to bring, right?
Mhm. Hmm.
And there's things that you have to bring, like, your military clothes. You are required to bring a couple pieces of civilian outfits in case you have to go off base. You're not allowed to like go out in another country and go off base in like your uniform, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So there's some rules on that stuff. And so there's like this forcible list of what you must bring. You have to bring this stuff.
yeah,
But then there's a little, and there's not tons of room, but you got about this much room left in a duffel bag for like personal effects.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
swear to God, like you're traveling, like I was on a trip recently with my wife, and she brings like five. It seemed like five suitcases for like a weekend, and I'm like, girl, I was like gone for like years, and like this much room,
yeah, yeah,
and so for personal stuff at least, like past uniforms and stuff. So I went to one of my bosses, like, hey man, you've deployed before, like what? I have no idea what to expect. What do I need to bring? Obviously,
yeah.
everything on the list, I get that, but what personal stuff would you recommend that me bring? Without hesitation, he said, hands down, a music player. And he said, you're going to have like moments of like nonstop chaos followed by lots of boredom. There's lots of moments where just nothing's going on, right?
Mhm, yeah,
And that's the stuff you don't see in the movies, right? Like there's
right.
just times where you're just sitting around with nothing to do, right? Because
Yeah,
might not be there's a period where maybe no missions are happening and you're just sitting there, horseshoe starts and everything. So like bring a music player. Well, I mean, I left all my personal belongings home when I joined the military. I had none, so I went to Circuit City at the time. They went out of business since. That to date me too. So I
yeah.
go to Circuit City and I'm looking at this giant wall of all these MP3 players. And at the time, it's like Toshiba and Sony and all these things. And MP3 was relatively new, right? At the time, like CDs were like this wall was like half like part cassette, part CDs, and then part MP3 players. I was like, I'm going to try to go with an MP3 player. Never owned one before. So I'm
Hmm.
sitting on this wall, pretty big wall, probably in the neighborhood of like 20 different choices.
Hmm.
It felt like 1,000, but there was about probably realistically about 20
Right.
and all different brands and models and all this stuff. And I'm a technical. I just went through aeronautical school. Like I understand, electrical engineering and stuff. Like I get tech spec stuff. Pretty technical guy, and I had a really hard time making this choice. I remember I was staring at it for like forever, just reading everything. Like, how do I make a
Yeah.
choice? So finally, I make a random choice. I deploy, and I come back later. And after one of my deployments, I came back, and the point is this is what kind of got me into marketing. I came back, and I was sitting around, and Apple had one of their famous keynote speeches, and this is the first
Mm,
one where they came out with the iPod. It's
mm,
2003, I believe, I think. And they had the monitors and computers and laptops and blah 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 blah. And I'd already I bought my first Mac in 2000, so that was already a little bit of an Apple fanboy at the time,
mhm,
and knew nothing about like the vision for like all the stuff that was to come.
mhm.
And he goes through the whole thing, and it kind of towards the very end of the keynote, he like reaches into his pocket, grabs out this little thing, the first iPod, the one with the spinny wheel before the
Yeah.
touchscreen, right?
Yep.
But he
Yep.
grabs this thing and he goes, you know what this is? It's 1,000 songs in your pocket. And I remember thinking to myself, good God, if only someone had told me that when I was standing at this like MP3
Yeah.
extravaganza,
Yeah.
right? And I immediately was like, what just happened? Like this guy just broke the world and he within months he dominated. Apple dominated MP3 sales with that one
Yeah.
line.
Oh yeah.
1,000 songs in your pocket, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, holy crap. And so I immediately started taking like part-time like marketing courses and psychology
Mm,
courses and stuff like that. I was just fascinated at how he just changed the world like that. I was like, what the heck is this?
yeah.
And so that led me down like a lifelong journey of like persuasion and psychology and marketing and sales and stuff like that. And so I was still in the military. I still have a few more years, but I started taking courses and reading books and doing all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got out and I created my first company. My first company was interesting because I was still very, very technical and was still kind of learning the psychology side of things. And my first company was actually a recording studio.
Mm,
So it was very tied to like the mechanics of making the media, not so much the messaging behind the media, because I was still learning that part.
mhm,
But I did that, and that was pretty successful. And then 2008 hit. So I left the Air Force in 2006.
mhm,
Actually, late 2005. I built the studio, started building the studio in 2005 while I was still in, started running in 2005 while I was still in, got out in 2006, and then went full in. I just left the Air Force and went that. Then
mm.
the 2008, housing crash happened and lost it all. Um, I had sunk, and now keep in mind, this is from an enlisted person, right?
Mhm.
Broke ass enlisted person. Now, when I don't know if anyone knows this, but when you're in the military and you deploy, everything's tax free, and you get a bunch of extra money for being in a hostile duty area. So,
Right.
like, and you can't spend money on anything. Like, the most you can spend money on is like toothpaste and toothbrush. Like, it's really hard to spend money over there
Yeah.
unless you bet or something, and you know, which I don't do.
Mhm.
Unless you're betting, you're stuck in a sandbox. You can't spend money. So you're in an area where you can't spend money and you're getting extra money and all your money's tax free. So
Mhm.
I came back from all those deployments with like probably a neighborhood of 100 grand. Right.
Dang. Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, and this is on like chump change money, right? Just because you can't spend anything. So I put almost all of that into this recording studio and then lost it.
Oh.
Oh, dude. And so I'm like back to like ramen. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I got nothing.
You got.
And during that same time period, I met my wife,
Yeah.
and we were like, well, we weren't obviously we get married right away, but we were like, well, let's. One of the things that was that caused that crash, well, that business got out of business. Probably the largest reason it went out of business because it was in a touristy area in the
Yeah.
panhandle of Florida, and that panhandle, like Panama City kind of area over there in Destin and all that stuff,
Mhm.
it was hyper focused on tourism. Well,
Right.
2008 pretty much stopped tourism. So like that whole strip where it used to be like bars and clubs, and it was just like it was the place to be.
Yeah.
Well, like one in four doors stayed open. So like of every bar and restaurant there, like 75% of them just went out of business
Yeah.
overnight. And so what that did is that killed tourism, it killed business, it killed like musicians were going to get corporate jobs. So like the recording studio definitely didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let's take what, you know, the certifications and knowledge and the classes and stuff that I've done. I'm going to move back to Jacksonville because it's more of a like an industrial town. So that's what brought me back to Jacksonville, Florida,
Mhm.
is just trying to find a more industrious town, not as much of a tourist town, right? Because I
Yeah.
was like, there's nothing like you can't even get a job at like you know a restaurant here because like
Right.
there's so many people out of work. So came back and I no clue how this happened. I mean, it was just a fluke of a fluke of a fluke. I came into Jacksonville and he brought Carrie and everything, and we moved over here, moved in together, and I just started doing interviews and all this stuff, and almost got a job for Blue Cross Blue Shield. Technically, I was actually hired
Mhm.
to take over as Blue Cross Blue Shield's internal marketing director, which
Mm.
I was wildly unqualified for. And the only reason I was even going to get the job was because like this guy that was there was retiring, and they liked my military background and all this leadership,
Ah, yeah.
and they saw that I had like all these media classes from college, but also these psychology classes. Like, you'd be a great fit. You'll be young, but you'll be a great fit. Had
Yeah.
the job, signed the paperwork, everything, and the guy decided not to retire because it was 2008.
Oh.
And so they just gave him his job, right? And so I was like, well, crap, now I got to go find something else.
Yeah.
I ended up getting a contract job at Vistacon, the guys that make the contacts and stuff.
Mhm.
And so like I basically bounced around for a couple of years doing contract work. I was working for some mega churches too at the same time.
Mhm.
And I don't mean small churches. I mean churches with like 5, 10,000 people in a room at one time,
Dang.
right? So
Yeah.
big churches, right? So I started traveling with doing that. I was doing some freelance TV work like Speed Channel, Fox, CNN, X Games, things like that. And
Mhm.
again, I just stumbled into this. It was just complete accident. So I was doing all that stuff. I had some contracts with some Fortune 500 companies, a couple insurance agencies, Vistacon. I did some projects for GE, but this was all project work, right? I wasn't directly employed.
Mhm.
And then I turned all of those skills working for some really, really giant projects, man. Multiple $1 million projects. We're working on some really, really cool stuff with huge crews and giant budgets, cranes and semi trucks. I was working on things where multiple semi trucks would show up, you know what I mean, of gear.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
pretty fun. And so, and then I was like, well, Carrie and I we're getting pretty serious. We're talking about marriage, having kids, and all this kind of stuff. And she had already had a kid, and I was doing all this traveling, and I just got done with years of Air Force travel. I was like, I just spent the last 10 years
Mhm.
not, and I just sat down one day and realized that out of 10 years of my life so far, this is
Mhm.
right around like 28, 29. I realized that I had spent nearly 10 years traveling 9 to 10 months out of every year. And
Mm.
I was like, I don't want to do this forever. Like I want to be around for kids and stuff. So
Yep.
Carrie and I sat down. I was like, I'm making crap tons of money doing all this freelance stuff because they're big companies, right? They
Right.
pay a lot. They pay travel stipends and all this other stuff too.
Yep.
There's a lot. It was a lot of money.
Yep.
I was like, this is great money, but it's not the lifestyle we want. What do we do? So we
Mhm.
decided to make an agency, and that was our first agency, right?
Mhm.
And My first agency, it went really great. We were kind of a generic agency though. Like we did a lot of general stuff. We
Mhm.
worked with home service companies. We did that too. We
Mhm.
worked with painters and roofers and cabinet guys and all that stuff. But we also worked with education companies, finance companies, large construction companies like Superior Construction, does like road
Yeah.
construction throughout the country. Like we did a lot of random things, right? And the that got us to a point where I learned how to run a team in a marketing agency, learn a lot of crazy skills, right?
Mhm.
We did this for like a little over a decade. So I had like freelance for a few years and like a decade of this. And so altogether it's like, 13, 14 years
Mhm.
of that kind of stuff. But the problem with this agency, if anyone's ever been in the agency side and tried to build a general agency, the hard part is like sales is hard because you're not specific. But
Mhm.
also that's not even the hardest part. Retention and training of employees. That's
Mhm.
the hard one. So like imagine like you've seen this before, like contractors,
Mhm.
you ever seen one of those contractors that has like 5,000 services on their website and they
Right.
can't scale? It's because they have no systems in place. And so like we had really smart people, we were really good. We had some loose systems, but it wasn't really hyper specific. And
Mhm.
because of that, like hiring and training and scaling the team was hard.
Mhm.
Everybody had to be at like my level, which is very difficult to do.
Mhm.
You need someone that's 10, 15 years in.
Right.
And you can't get someone with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years of experience. You can't get the juniors because it's not specific enough. And so we had lots of problems. I mean, we had moments of like panic attack and just in crazy stress, and it was just wild ups and downs. I tried to convince the partners that I wanted to go a different direction. I wanted to become a specialized niche agency. I wanted to focus on home services, specifically painting, because I grew up in a painting household. That's what I
Mhm.
wanted to do. I could not change their opinion.
Mhm.
So Carrie and I sold our shares, left that business, and started Search Click Grow at the very end of 2019, started January 1, 2020.
Wow.
And then COVID hit. So it's like super,
Yes.
super, super fun timing, right? But
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, so when we came into the painting space, it was 2020, like in COVID, and from that day, January 1, 2020, it was like painting only. That's all we did.
Mhm.
But we didn't come as a brand new agency. We came with a decade and a half to her, Carrie, and myself, a decade and a half of working on Fortune 500 marketing campaigns and production campaigns. So huge knowledge. And one of the things that's made us successful is the fact that we've been able to take large scale workflows and knowledge from some of the things that happens when you have multiple millions of dollars on your disposal, but obviously you can't do all of it. You cannot do that all. You can't do that in a $2,000 marketing campaign. You
Right.
can't.
Right. Yeah.
But there's some lessons to be learned about safety and security and processes and order of operations and things that big productions force and most people miss on small productions and small campaigns.
Mm.
And so one of the reasons why I think we were so rapidly successful is because we took some really, really good SOP knowledge, was part of SOP
Mhm.
knowledge from in the Air Force, but then also from these giant campaigns. And we're like, we just sat down for the first 3 months. And mind you, COVID was happening at this time. We were just kind of
Yeah.
living
Yeah.
on savings.
Yeah.
COVID's happening, and we're sitting down. I brought a couple employees with me from my last company. I didn't steal them. When we left, they left and said, "I want to work with you." I didn't
Yeah.
take them, but they
Yeah.
just didn't want to work with the other partners that were there.
Right.
And so we had 5 people. It was a really really lean team.
Yeah.
Um, 3 people followed me, and then Carrie and I, and we started with lots of like dining room discussions, and then COVID hit, and it turned into Zoom discussions.
Yep.
But
Yep.
for the first 3 months, it was just like it was branding. Like, who do we want to be? What do we want to call? How do we want to position ourselves?
Mhm.
What's in the marketplace? What's bad? We spent a lot of time in forums and groups like yours,
Mhm.
and just figuring out like the pain points that we were seeing, and we realized like the absolute number one pain point that we still focus in is our core value. The opposite of this is our core values. The biggest pain point that we see in the space from agencies is like lack of trust. You know,
Mhm.
now this isn't to say like we're perfect. We make mistakes all the time, but
Mhm.
we have integrity and we'll own those mistakes. And it's something that like at least it's getting a little bit better now because there's a
Mhm.
few of us that have gone down this road, like Eric and Austin and several other people that are concurrently going down this lane. But there's
Mhm.
just for a long time there was this huge rash. Lucas too, Lucas and quite a few others, right? I don't have time to name all of them, but there's a lot
Yeah.
of trusted agencies. But when we were coming into this, like it was just before Lucas and some of these other guys were just getting in there too, and the people before him are these like big cutthroat agencies that just really suck. Everything's outsourced, lock you into long contracts, and like all you don't own your assets, and just all of these like
Mm-hmm.
really crappy things. I'm like, this is the polar opposite of what I want to build. I want to build an agency where you can talk to the real people behind the scenes. You
Mm-hmm.
know, most of my clients are my personal number, but like you can get me on, you can talk to me if you need to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, a product that's trustworthy, a team that knows what they're doing, and they're going to do what they say. You know, they're going to do the right thing every time. That doesn't mean that we won't make mistakes, but we'll try to do the best thing possible at all times. If we
Right.
do make mistakes, we find a way to make it right. Good, ethical, clear communication, and really importantly is like systems. Like when clients come on with us, they always own all their assets, and that sounds like it should be always be true, but it's just not. You
Right.
know, I still, for that whole time we had that first agency and all the way in through and into this agency, there has not a week that's gone by. And then right at 20 years, this year's 20 years of full time because I got out of the Air Force in 2026. I've been media and production in some
Mm-hmm.
capacity for 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And that entire time, I cannot remember one week unless I've been on vacation that
Mm-hmm.
I've not heard a story about some agency screwing some client over. And I
Mm-hmm.
just think that's wild, right? That's like at least 52 times a year times 20 years. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that's
Mm-hmm.
just like so many people. And so what we just strove to do is like, you know, we make a really, really great product, treat people really, really well, have fair prices, but most importantly is like always act in integrity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, it doesn't mean that we're perfect. We're far from it. We're always learning. We make mistakes. We get back up and do something better tomorrow. But where we want to be the people that are trustworthy. You know what I mean? And in this
Yeah.
space, I think that's something that's needed, and it's something that's just not there enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
that's super long-winded, but man, it's like I think that the passion and how I got here is I think why I'm successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Having the background in painting helps me understand the industry. Like I've actually been out there and I've actually painted for a long time,
Yeah.
helped run my family painting business, having some really cool training from the Air Force and systems and operations and cool things, and then getting to do some, freelance and some big picture marketing work on some like giant campaigns. Also, like, I mean, that's a lot of knowledge, man. You know,
Yeah.
it's a lifetime of like really cool and some very hard lessons I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's almost like the perfect storm, right? I mean, those different combinations coming together, the, like you said, taking the SOP work and stuff from, some of those mega firms that you worked with on the massive projects and
Mm-hmm.
really boiling that down and being able to see what you don't want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing what you want to provide, right? I mean, that's yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, it's like the perfect storm came together, and then with Carrie with her background and everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
bringing that into it, it was like, you know, like like let's go. Why not go for it, right? Um,
Yeah.
back it up. What was the? I'm curious. What was the musical instrument? What were
No,
you?
it's so I didn't finish that degree, but I was majoring in percussion performance with a minor in piano performance. So,
Oh, okay.
and interestingly enough, like when there was a few years of my life where I did actually play professionally. Of course, I had the recording studio too, right? So like
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
was playing on albums. I was gigging. I was in all kinds of different musical groups too, man. I mean, I played like I was kind of genre agnostic, everything from classical to folk music, Irish. I was in a country band once.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
Oh,
jazz and fusion
yeah.
and Latin, like all kinds of different
All
stuff.
kinds of
Now, like I was doing like media production, like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and
yeah.
then nights and weekends I would go out and like gig and stuff. And that was those like 2005 to 2008 era, like
Yeah.
the last year of my Air Force before we moved back to Jacksonville. So for
Mhm.
those 3 years, I mean, I was in that area. Um, it's kind of like it's one of those really beachy areas. It's a couple hour strip of just bar and restaurant, bar and restaurant, bar and restaurant.
Yeah.
And at least prior to 2008, I don't know what it's like today, but like every other bar had a band.
Right.
And so like I live in Jacksonville, Florida right now, and there's like one or two spots that will have full bands. Everything's like one acoustic guitar player, right?
Yeah.
This was a great spot for me as a drummer because like it was more bands than you know what to do with, and
Yeah.
drummers were hard to find. Like most people were like bass or guitar or keyboards or something. They're like, I need a drummer. Like, great, I can play anything. What do you want? What are we playing tonight? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I turned away gigs, you know. So I 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. I would gig Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and sometimes more.
Mm-hmm.
On the weekends, some of the weekends I'd have like day gigs at like a city festival, and then like night gigs at a club.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was gigging like nonstop. It is absolute crap pay though. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Gigging musician pay is like it's garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you know, as a kid, it's like kind of what I wanted to do. And then
Yeah.
I was kind of toying between like the media production and the marketing. I was doing kind of both at the same time.
Yeah.
And then the marketing stuff just won, mostly because of the travel. Like
Mhm.
I enjoyed playing music more than I do like grinding away doing marketing.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't it was also like part of the reason I left the Air Force was to get away from drugs and stuff. And you go back to like you're a musician, you're on these stages, you're in these clubs. Like I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've had some really wild experiences, some stuff that would get censored if I say, but I've walked into like gone off a stage and walked into a back room to lots of people doing lots of things that I wanted nothing to do with. You know
Right.
what I mean? That
Yeah.
didn't align with the values that I had just learned and built in the Air Force. So then I was like conflicted again. I was like, no, man, I just need to, music just needs to be a hobby for me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It just needs to
Yeah.
be a hobby because
Yeah.
like I love it. It's my one of my favorite things in my life.
Yeah.
But I mean, the movies are mostly true. You know what I mean? It's just sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's what it is, man.
Yeah.
And it's absolute batshit crazy. And
Yeah.
I was like, as much as I love music, if I go down this road too far, I'm just going to go right back to where I was before I joined the Air Force, and that's absolutely not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So, in that time period, I wasn't doing drugs or anything, but it was just all around. You know what I mean? And I was like, if I stay here long enough, I'm going to go right back.
Yeah. I
And
get it.
so, you know that book, Atomic Habits,
Oh yeah. Of
James
course.
Clear?
Oh yeah.
Like one of my favorite lessons, he talks about like people's willpower. And I didn't read this at this time. I read this later. So
Mm-hmm.
I had kind of figured this out on my own, but he talks about a big concept in that book. He talks about people's willpower is actually pretty weak. Even the people that seem like they have the strongest grind and grit and perseverance and everything, that's not true. Everyone's willpower is fairly weak. The
Mm-hmm.
difference is the discipline to control the environment.
Mm-hmm.
If you control the environment, you control the outcome. If I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to eat ice cream, I don't do it by not going to the freezer. I do it
Mm-hmm.
by not buying it at the grocery store,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I don't want to do drugs, I do it by not being around places that have it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and so it was, and that's why I'd gone in the Air Force in the first place. And then I kind of dipped my toe back into an environment that had that around. I
Yep.
didn't go back down that road, but I was in it was in it. And it was like being on the edge of a cliff, leaning over, like, man, any day I'm gonna be down that ledge. And I was like, I just need to stop again, you know.
Yep.
And so I haven't played a gig professionally,
Mm-hmm.
not including like backyard crap or whatever, but
Yeah.
I haven't played a professional gig since 2008.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, something I always tell people, teach people too, at the same time of like, hey, whatever you surround yourself, whatever you put in your mind, whatever you listen to, whatever who you surround yourself with, I mean, that's what's in there. Right. And so
Yeah.
that's what's going to come out. Like remove yourself, and, know when you need to remove yourself. And, and then on top of that, you got to make a lifestyle change. It's not just,
Yeah.
you know,
I wanted to be able to be there for kids. I mean, if I had kept going Thursday, Friday, Saturday, not always out at nights and everything, I'd be sleeping during the day, and
Yep.
kids would be want to hang out and I'd be like, I'm sorry, I got to go to the bar. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like alcohol and smoking and drugs, and it's just, um, that it just wasn't the life I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
As much as I love music, that was not the life for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Yeah. Well, switching gears on you as we're kind of
Uh-huh.
get a little bit closer to time, switching gears on you. So, let's talk about, kind of search, click, grow, how fast that's grown, right? Because, it's,
Hmm.
you guys have grown fairly fast on that front.
Yep.
And, the stuff you guys offer, right? I mean,
Hmm.
obviously if anybody who knows you, knows somewhat of what you do already, right?
Hmm.
Website SEO, optimization, everything like that. But there's also, things that you guys offer and do that most people probably don't necessarily know that much about, right? Um,
Yeah. I mean, when we decided kind of our content and marketing angle, first of all, like our marketing is entirely content based. Like we don't do like direct response funnels or any of that kind of stuff. It's all about being involved in amazing events like we were just on yesterday, like Liftoff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Speaking
yeah.
on stages, and I don't know, man, I just have a giving heart. I want to help people regardless, with literally no expectation of a return. Like
Mhm.
I know that I probably will get a return, and it has, but that's not,
Sure.
there's no quid pro quo ever.
Yeah.
You know what I
Right.
mean? If I
100%.
jump on a call with somebody and I want to help them, it's literally, this is my time. You're getting my knowledge for free. Like I don't care what happens after.
Yep.
And so what I've become good at from, the media stuff, you think like all that media production, man, I learned about crap like boring crap, like file naming. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just stupid things like that. But where we've taken all of these skills from like media production to web and marketing and all that stuff, when we decided that we wanted to leave that other general agency that did way too many things for way too many people, it's very hard to scale. We said
Mhm.
we're going to focus on Google. There's
Mhm.
a few other things that we do, but this is our core competency, right?
Right. Right.
We do support like we do have some like meta clients, very very few, but we do that and we do it well. Like we're not bad at it.
Yeah.
We're not like Lucas. We're like he's an absolute killer in that front. But we
Mhm.
have some people that we're doing Google for. We also do some meta. We have last year we spent a good bit of time doing like a coaching program kind of
Mhm.
beta.
Mhm.
We're gonna be leaning into that pretty hard this year.
Mhm.
But our core competency is definitely Google, right? That is our number one skill.
Mhm.
Everyone on our team knows it and knows it well,
Yeah.
and it just to some part or another. So, building amazing world-class websites. My wife is the lead designer. She's
Mhm.
won a half a dozen national awards for website designs in her career, right?
Yeah,
So
dude.
really good,
Killer.
Um, absolutely killer. I have some like influence on some of the SOPs and outcomes, but these are not my designs, right?
Mhm.
They're hers. And so she oversees all the designs and all the output and has a big web team behind her, a whole bunch of people that just help her out with that. That's a huge thing.
Mhm.
We build websites for people that just want us to like, build it and hand it off. We a lot of times build them and host them and maintain them and do SEO and other things too, which kind of goes into like the SEO campaigns, which is like part maps, part website, part content, like over a long periods of time, gaining traffic and leads and stuff that way. You
Mhm.
also run Google ads and local service ads and all that stuff. So, I mean, the
Mhm.
really simple thing is if you do open up a Google tab like right now, anyone can do this, and just type in like painter near me, roofer near me, anything like that, and you're going to see four pretty distinct areas. The
Mhm.
first one will be local service ads. We do
Yep.
that. The next one will be regular Google ads. We do that too. The next one will be the map three pack. We do
Yep.
that. And then after that, it's web. We do
Mhm.
that. So there's like when you now if you do different searches like how to change an alternator, you're gonna see like YouTube videos and help articles and stuff. So I'm talking about local business search. There's
Yeah.
like those four things. If you do different other searches like AI and other things like start coming in, but if you're looking at like painter near me, it's going to be those four areas, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we help influence. And obviously, some of this is growing into like there's a lot of like changing AI stuff.
Mhm.
So far, it's not super crazy, but there's been some AI influences and some shifts that we've had to make, and it'll continue. And I think in the next couple of years is going to get even crazier. But
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you know, that's part of it. But yeah, that's what we do is like it's search. And so what's interesting though is like in order to influence search, there's a whole bunch of skills that people sometimes don't realize are there. The
Yeah.
biggest one actually comes from my first few years in this is which is content.
Mhm.
And we were talking about this yesterday, like
Yeah.
on Liftoff, doing some of the audits after
Yep.
with Lucas and I. Like a couple people like asked me to audit their websites, and they'd have like 200 words on a page. And I was like, man, like you need content here.
Mhm.
And so like as fancy as websites can be with like animations and codes, and you hear buzzwords like PHP and JavaScript and
Yep.
XML and SEO and schema, like all these and all those things matter, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, a website holds content. It has colors, it has fonts, it has
Mhm.
icons, it has words like sentences and headlines, it has video, it has images, graphics. It's content that
Yeah.
makes those pages great.
Yeah.
So, how good of the words are you writing? How good are they?
Yeah.
Right? How good are the photos you put on there? Right? And so, and it's not even about like being high quality. It doesn't need to be like a glamour shoot or anything. But it's like if I'm a local contractor, the thing that like kind of separates us, the thing is like what are the questions that our clients, customers are going to ask?
Hmm.
And that's why we're good. Is
Yeah.
it's like we have to put ourselves not in our client's mind, that too, but like their customer's mind. Like
Hmm.
when someone searches for a paint company, what are the questions that they want answered? What are
Hmm.
they looking for? It's mostly trust signals, but like there's some certain questions and loops that they'll go through. And knowing that and predicting that, and then just writing and creating photo and word content to match that,
Hmm.
that's kind of what it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and I pull that back from like learning and following Steve Jobs' career,
Hmm.
going back full circle to that
Yeah.
iPod.
Yeah.
It's like he came on stage, 1,000 songs in your pocket, and changed the world.
Hmm.
Literally changed the world,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we have these things like this now, because of him.
Hmm.
And so like we're not going to revolutionize the world with painting per se, and not even what I do. I'm not going to revolutionize the world with marketing, but we can revolutionize someone's customer experience.
Hmm.
And that, like Nick Slavik says, it's like just about being professional, like professionalizing the company. So if we know what customers are saying, we've been painting for a while, we hear this problem, we see this, we get this question, we know this stuff predictively.
Yeah.
Like if you're day one, you probably don't yet, but at most companies that come to us, they've been around for 1 to 5, 10, maybe even 15, 20 years, and they're just doing things wrong and they know they need to level up. And so it's like, okay, well, what do your customers say?
Yeah.
What's the feedback you get? They're
Yeah.
telling you if you listen.
Yeah.
Your customers are literally telling you what's going on. You just gotta listen.
Yeah.
And then you listen to them and you just do that.
Yeah.
And, that's where our core competency, I think, is really great in Google is because, yeah, we can code and we can make great designs and all that stuff. But like the customer centric messaging and content,
Hmm.
that's what makes us good, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. So one last thing, and we'll end it on that because I love that. I love the full circle going back to the iPod. That was
That was
awesome.
an accident, by the way. That was an accident, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
know. You played it off. You played it off smooth. I like it. I like it. So for something that somebody could do right now, right? Maybe they've bootstrapped. Maybe they've done it all themselves. Maybe they've,
Hmm.
maybe they've whipped out a Squarespace or a Wix website or something like that.
Hmm.
Something that they could do now. And you tell me or add to this or whatever. But it sounds like, you know, take the take what you're hearing from your customers, what they're asking you, the questions they're asking you, and, if you already know it and you already know the answer to it, write it and write it well and add that, content, right? Like you said, right?
Hmm.
Just content, just words. Add those words to the website. Would that
words
be
words words and images, right? And
yeah.
so like when you look at really good design sites, one of the things that separates them is they're like the design will shift when the section shifts.
Mm,
So
mhm,
if we like flip through a magazine, right, and pick up any like big magazine,
mhm.
there'll be a full page ad, and then the next page will be like an image with a paragraph, and the next page will
Yep.
be like a by column. So you're using design to help demonstrate that content has changed,
Mhm.
right? And so, like, if we think about top down on a website, so if anybody can do this, and feel free to go to searchcookgrow.com and just look at our portfolio and you can see
Yeah.
some examples of this. We do this every time. So feel free to mirror me all you want. I don't care.
Yep.
But what we'll see is there's a formula. All the designs will be different, but we use some form of design to
Mm,
tell the user as we're scrolling that I'm in the head section, I'm in the review section. Like we're using color changes and borders and boxes and things like that to say content shift, content shift. It's like
yeah.
changing pages on a magazine. It's like page one, page two, page three, but all in one scroll, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so the first thing to do, I'd say, before you design something, one of the worst mistakes people make if they try to DIY their website is they just start designing. That is absolutely the wrong way to go. You
Mm,
need to outline first. Our own team does this. Award-winning designer does this, right?
mhm,
So think
mm,
about it. If you've never designed a website and you think you're just going to go straight to design, in a
mhm,
world award-winning, national award-winning web designer that's done thousands of websites
mhm.
has to outline first, you're definitely not getting there without an outline,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So 100% start with a piece of paper or an Apple
Okay.
Note or something like that.
Yeah.
And what the first thing you want to do is list out the core things about your company. Like you're gonna have a homepage, you just put home, right? You're probably gonna want an about for like what just talking
Yeah.
about you.
You
You're
go.
probably gonna have service and like interior painting, exterior painting, list the services you do. You're going to need a portfolio page for sure. You're going to need a contact page for sure. Just basically, just in a bullet list the pages you think you need.
Mhm.
One per primary function.
Mm,
Homepage is just where you land. About page tells your story. Service one tells you about service one. Service two about service two.
mhm,
Contact page is where my address and phone number and forms are all that stuff.
mhm,
Also some other things you might need like a privacy policy if you're doing like open phone or something like this. You might have utility pages, but most of these pages they're content rich pages, right?
mhm,
So you're talking about portfolio, about all that stuff. So bullet list that. That's step one,
mhm,
and then take each one of those and indent one level. So if like
mhm,
service, like about is here, I want you to
mhm,
indent one level, and I
mhm.
want you to write 5 to 10 bullets of what should be on that page
Boom.
and
Yeah.
repeat for every single page.
Got it.
Now, after you've done that, now
Yep.
you can start writing paragraphs, right?
Gotcha.
But not until. And if you think about this, let's say like we're talking about like interior painting.
Mhm,
So we've got a list of pages like home, about, service one, service two, things like that. But what about an interior painting page? What would we potentially want to put on that page? Okay,
mhm,
well, the very first thing that we'd always want to put is like something that's attention grabbing, like a
mhm,
really clear heading,
mhm,
quality interior painting serving whatever city. Like just
mhm.
really clear heading. That's gonna be a big thing. A
Yep.
big powerful image that shows like where we're at, like
Mhm.
the wide image of a house or something that's pretty, like
Yep.
a job well done. That'd be awesome. Probably
Yep.
don't want to put an in construction photo, not for the first one.
Yep.
So powerful heading, powerful image. Think of like a magazine, like
Yep.
magazine front cover, like before you get into the pages, right? So I use the analogy of like going in every section as a new page, but the front of it has a pretty image and a pretty heading and a
Yep.
really capturing headline. You
Yep.
need the top of your page to do that. Then after that, what are the things we might need? Well, we want to talk about the service. We talk about
Mhm,
what's included in the service. We talk about what makes us unique. We probably want to show some reviews. We might want to show some before and after, some transformations. We might
mhm.
want to talk about our process. Might want to talk about that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? And,
Yeah.
and if you just list that kind of stuff as like, here's my interior, it's like, okay, heading, image, reviews, about our service, process, what makes us different, all that stuff in a bullet list in 5 to 10 bullets. It's
Yeah.
somewhere in that ballpark. Now each one of those becomes its own unique section on that page, and now you put an image and or words and fill it out. That's
Bam.
it.
That's it.
And literally that's all my team does. Now, I mean, they're really good at writing the words, of course. They're really good with
Right.
that
Right.
structure and they know what they need, but that's
Yeah.
really it. And so you can make pretty good designs and you can get pretty close if you get like a Wix template and you just make sections that go along with those things that people want to do.
Gotcha.
A FAQ section, a call to action section are going to be in there, like footers, all these things, right?
Yep.
So and we got some resources on our blogs too that talk about those common sections. We have things like anatomy of a landing page. It actually talks about all the things that you want to
Yep.
consider. So
Yep.
there's a blog on our website somewhere. If you just go to our blog and just search for anatomy, you'll find it. We've
Mhm.
got one that's anatomy of a landing page, another is anatomy of a blog, and it
Right.
just breaks down all of the things that we could put on the page. Now, you might not be able to put all of them on every page, right?
Right.
I'm
Right.
not going to talk about my process on my about page. I'm
Mhm.
not going to tell a family story on interior painting page. So
Right.
like
Right.
you have to use the discretion, but there's just a list of things that you could put on. So at this point, it just becomes like Lego bricks. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I need these 10 pages on my website to function, right? I need to have one page for every major thing that I want to talk about. And then on that page, I'm going to have 5 to 10 like sections to,
Mhm.
to break down that subject matter. And
Mhm.
then every one of those sections might be, a paragraph or two, an image, some headings, whatever it
Mhm.
needs,
Yep.
and you're done. You know what I
Boom.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not enough to make you a world-class designer, but it's definitely
Sure.
enough to put some information that your
Yeah.
customers will appreciate, and it will help make you rank higher online too.
Yep. Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. And I mean, anybody can do that, right? I mean, anybody can do that. Everybody has,
Especially with ChatGPT. You
especially
know what I
true.
mean?
True. Yeah.
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 So
Very
you could
true.
literally like create this outline from you, and then you could go to ChatGPT to say, here's my company, here's what I currently have said about my company. Scan my current website if you already have one. If not, just write about what your vision and mission and what you want to do.
Yep.
I need help writing this interior service page. I want to include section X, Y, Z, so on and so forth. And
Yep.
then it'll start spitting it out, right?
Yep.
Now
Yep.
it's not perfect, and the better you train it, the better it is, blah, 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 blah,
Sure.
blah.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
right now, as of today, Google doesn't penalize AI content as
Mm.
long as it's useful. So if you just go to ChatGPT and say, write me a website, it's going to be bad, it's going to be cliche, and it'll be really hurtful. But if you train it really, really well, spend a
Mhm.
lot of time teaching it who you are as a company,
Yeah.
and then you ask it to write a paragraph for your about page,
Yeah.
it can actually be useful, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we typically do that, speeds up production. Of course, we human edit and tweak as needed too. But so
Right.
our content producers use part AI, part human writing. We
Yep.
hire actual writers though. I mean, so
Yeah.
they actually can write, but we
Yep.
use AI as an assistant. So if you've got a good message, you can draft it up, put it in there, and let AI help you make it better and expand and give you other ideas and context.
Yep.
But the big thing is, man, more pages, better pages, And I would
Yeah.
say, like, honestly, in any endeavor, if you just do more and better of anything, you'll get better.
Yeah.
If I want to lose weight, I go to the gym more and I work out better. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like anything I want to do, if I want to be better with finances, I make more money, save more money. Like just more and better at pretty much anything
Yep.
makes us better at that discipline.
Yeah.
And as far as web is, it's more pages, it's better pages.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Love it. Love it. Micah, I appreciate it. That's so much good information. Excuse me.
I love it, man.
Excuse me. Sorry. Allergies. If anybody's in Austin right now, the cedar fever, you feel me, right?
Cedar fever, man. We got it over here, and in about a month, we're gonna have all the pine trees are gonna put all that yellow pollen everywhere. We're gonna have it over here too.
Yeah, for sure. So I hear you. All right, man. Oh, hey, we're at time. We're good. Ton of good information. Great story too. Loved hearing about it. That was awesome. I know you got to get out of here as well. So, Mike, I appreciate it, man. And
thanks so much, brother.
Always good talking, and we'll see you next month.
See you next time, man. Bye, everybody.
Bye.